Welcome to another episode of the Meat-N-Tater Show. I'm here with my co-host, Meat.
Greetings and salutations, everybody.
I'm Tater, and we're excited to bring you this week's show. We're going to make our way through some meaty facts with a heaping side of buttery, tatery opinion. This week's topics are Fauci recanting his lockdown stance, whether or not it's better to fry or grill a steak, and is Stevie Wonder a superhero?
All right, so let's jump into our first topic tonight. Fauci going back on his original stance of lockdown, at least through the summer, and sometimes he was on record saying till December when he thinks the vaccine would be out. What's your take, Tater?
So far, my take is that there were a lot of caveats that he gave in his statement, in his interview. He did mention making sure that some of the standards were met, making sure that he was asked specifically about areas where people are reopening and their case numbers haven't dropped, and he kind of gave a little bit of a warning about maybe those particular groups weren't quite ready yet, but in areas where there were drops in cases, where maybe things were progressing in a better way for certain communities, he seemed to be more in favor of that. So far I don't see this as something where he's giving a blanket statement like the economy as a whole nationally for 350 million Americans needs to reopen on the same pace. I think he wants to take it like area by area basis, but I do see him shifting his thoughts a little bit on the whole lockdown scenario, which I find very interesting in light of like what you've said is he's been pretty staunch on keeping things locked down for a pretty long time.
So are you in agreement with his assessment that we should reopen, or I don't know, how do you feel about what he's saying?
I agree with his caveat more than I agree with his full statements. I think that if a place has certain testing in order, they have a drop in cases, they seem to have a good handle on how to open up restaurants and movie theaters and libraries and all those things. If people have proper measures in place and it's a good plan, then I say follow the good plan until the plan falls apart. But I don't think that, well, here's what I'll say. A lot of the people that have been saying that Fauci is not an expert, he's not the end all be all for any of this response, that he's just basically, you're just a doctor, stick to doctoring, that are now going to cling to these comments. So like his statement is basically what any reasonable person would say in my mind. But I don't necessarily like where this trend might go, because the headline basically says Fauci warns of irreparable damage if lockdowns are kept in place for too long. But again, he had a lot of caveats with that. It was like, if we don't make progress in these places, then yes, it can be detrimental. Or if we're locking down a place that has the ability to move forward with opening up because their cases dropped and the hospitals are open, like, okay, like, yeah, I mean, he can be fully right and he can be fully wrong, just depending on how you want to apply his quotes, I guess.
Yeah, my interaction with people on how they feel about Dr. Fauci is a lot of people think he's a truly evil human being. And so, a lot of people that are into these conspiracy theories will probably think that about him as well. But he's, part of that pandemic stuff that we talked about in that last week's episode, maybe the week before that. Part of what happens in that documentary is that he's on record in like 2017 saying something like, there is a pandemic coming that we are unprepared for. And, like, how's he says surprise pandemic. So he's predicting a surprise pandemic. Like, oh, does he know about this? Like, he's part of some Illuminati type plot to overthrow, or what, I don't even know. Some evil plot to take over the world, I guess. And he's doing it with the coronavirus. So in light of all of that here, and then, he's got what some people might say is a conflicted financial interest in a patented vaccine. Like he would profit immensely off of a vaccine that he's having developed, that he is predicting to be ready for mass widespread use in December. So, there's a lot of ways that people are connecting the dots that, no, Fauci's an evil guy. And I think that him looking at the data now, because all of the models that he was using to predict the widespreadness of the coronavirus are completely wrong. There's a lot of models that were predicting that the deaths would be upwards of 500,000 to 1 million, and we're not even anywhere close to that number. I mean, it's still a really high number, but it's not anywhere near those numbers. So in light of new data, he is changing his stance, and I think that's an admirable thing to do, because you're saying, we were wrong before, but now given the new data and the new trajectory of everything, it makes sense to at least open up, like you were saying, with a smart plan, that it might be a good idea to start opening things up where it will help the economy. So I think that's a good thing that he's doing. Maybe he's not such a bad guy.
Or that's part of his plan. He's truly evil enough to win. Now he's going to win everybody over to his side, and then as soon as he does,
That's it. Stay tuned. Part 2 is Fauci, evil guy. Is he the real Lex Luthor?
Right, exactly. Is he the devil? So, but no, I really think that one comment I've heard from ABC News on one of their podcasts, they basically said that something that you have to. Like, the thing you have to be aware of are people who are not willing to change their stance as the data grows, because this is such obviously an organic situation, like no pun intended, or that's metaphorical and literal, but this is such a shifting, moldable situation that if people aren't shifting with the data as it comes out, then those are the people you really should watch out for, because they're the more dangerous people. They're the ones that probably act as if they have something to lose. And so, being willing to change your outlook by 6-7 months, as far as like reopening, then that's a pretty big shift in my mind as far as that goes. And here's the thing: guys that make their way to a high political position, whether it's as an advisor or not, I just don't trust. Like, I mean, that's my little conspiratorial take, is that if you make it high up in politics, beyond maybe your state level, you probably got a couple of skeletons in the closet that if
suicide a couple of people.
Right, yeah, there will be some people that would just disappear if they had to.
Right on. All right. Well, maybe
even
Fauci is an evil guy. Yeah. Look into his past. That's what you're getting at. All right.
Oh, well, maybe we won't look into his past.
If you're listening, Dr. Fauci, we are not looking into your past.
Right. This is all allegedly for any legal purposes. All allegedly. Fauci is allegedly the devil. Okay. So you brought. Okay, we're going to transition to the next topic, because this is something that I'm really trying to wrap my mind around, because I've heard arguments over and over and over again about charcoal versus gas when it comes to grilling. But you brought something to me that after hearing the backstory, I totally understand the logic, but frying a steak in a pan being better than a grilled steak?
Better than a grilled steak. Just for clarity's sake, I still use gas. I cook with fire on a stove, but it is in a skillet, not on we don't get the good grill marks on the grill out and back. No charcoal involved. So yeah, I've grilled steaks before. I've been grilling steaks for, 5-10 years, something like that. And we tried some steaks on the skillet before. Kind of messed up the first time, so it wasn't that great. But after I figured out what I was doing, I grilled a steak so good for my wife. For a little background story, we have 2 beautiful children. When I grilled this steak, though, we only had 1 child at the time. And then 9 months later, after that steak, we had 2 children. And I've had grilled steak before, and it's never brought life into the world. But I've had a skillet fried steak with my wife, and, it's like the circle of life was complete. So right. We were holding Simba up on Pride Rock. Circle of life.
Well, this particular, anecdotal evidence I can't defeat it. I don't want to try to defeat this anecdotal evidence. That means I'm going to have to try to get into the minutia of the rest of the evening. I don't want to do that. So for that side of it, I'll give you a little bit of that. But there's just, I lost a grill. I say lost. I got rid of a grill when we moved from Norman to where we're currently living. And so I spent about a year or so without a grill. And so when I made steaks, I made them in a pan, used butter and stuff, and they were good. Don't get me wrong. Like I've figured out how to make them good in a pan. But I got a grill probably 2 months ago, and made some steaks for the first time, and it was a life changer. I was like, I can't believe I've been eating steaks out of it. So I can't fully agree with your final assessment that steaks in the pan are better, just because there's something that you know that a gas grill or a charcoal grill just bring. That open flame just does something to it that a Teflon pan can't. So.
Right on. If you know that you're cooking it on Teflon, you're probably not using enough butter. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
Right. The steak needs to be buoyant in the butter.
To be floating in the butter. Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. My heart may not be okay with that, but my taste buds greatly enjoy that.
Exactly. Who cares about the heart? It's all about the taste buds, man.
Always. Okay.
All right. So let's talk about Daredevil. I mean, Stevie Wonder.
Right. So we've got quite a conundrum on our hands here. I didn't realize how popular of a conspiracy theory this was until I started doing some research. So what's the conspiracy that we're talking about here?
So we're talking about Stevie Wonder, and if you had to think about any skit where you've ever had somebody impersonating Stevie, you'd probably imagine the first thing that they think about is kind of his demeanor as a person that is unable to see, a blind person. That's probably his defining characteristic, wouldn't you say? I mean, he's a great musician. That's another thing that people think about. But first thing that they try to figure out is, how am I going to act like a blind guy? And the conspiracy theory is that, well, guys, Stevie Wonder, not really blind.
And I think I'm buying in. I think I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, man. After all my research,
Shane. I don't know.
After a couple of nights of bloodshot eyes and trying to turn this thing over in my brain, I think I'm drinking the Kool-Aid on this particular conspiracy theory. I'm going to tell you why. And you can undo it. If you think you can undo it, then I challenge you to undo my conviction. I'm not going to be Branch Davidian, in Waco, Texas, steeped into this, but it's pretty close.
Okay, here we go.
All right. So one of the things is that he has court-side seats at live basketball games. So I need some explanation on what a blind man is doing courtside at a basketball game if all he hears is grunting and sweating and conversation close to him. He's not getting the experience. Like, he could get the same experience pretty much from a box seat with it on the TV in the background, keeping him updated on the scores. They have commentary from the TV people. So just this one really stood out to me. Like, okay, Stevie, like, what are you doing?
What are you doing at these ball games, man?
What are you doing?
Oh man, hard to say. I mean, like I said, I kind of think he's got those extra senses that blind people develop, and maybe he can hear the difference between who's holding the ball. He can hear the difference between a layup, I don't know, three-pointer, free throw. You can probably tell the difference to him when it's free throw time, right? He's got the cadence of a whistle. Oh, this is a whistle, so it means probably there's a free throw coming.
Yeah. You make a solid argument. I am not convinced.
Do I? Tater, is that a solid argument?
I think it is. No, I think it is a solid argument. I'll join your side for just a bit, because the flow of a basketball game, especially if you're courtside and you can hear the players. I've been to like a developmental league basketball game courtside before, and you can hear everything. You can hear the coaches calling out plays. You can hear the players talking to each other. And if you know the game of basketball, like you can kind of imagine how things are unfolding. But again, I know that as a able person who can see, like, I can imagine that from that perspective. But from a perspective of someone who's been blind from nearly birth, blind from birth, I don't really know if it would all make sense, because He doesn't know what a 3-man weave is. He doesn't know what a 2-3 zone is, or a 1-3-1. Like he's not going to know what those things are. So if a coach calls it out, how does he know? How does he know if all those things are making sense?
It would be very tough to explain that to somebody that has no concept of what is visually happening on a court. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
But maybe he just likes hanging out with people at ball games. Maybe he just likes the atmosphere.
Well, that might be the hardest part to refute. Just go sit by somebody and talk to him for 3 hours. I mean,
do they give discounts to people? They have a disability like that?
I mean, if it were me, I would not give a discount to Stevie because I know he's got the money.
He can afford these tickets.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they're courtside too, so those are the big sellers, right?
Yep.
Cool. That's probably the biggest point that I don't have a rebuttal for.
All right, well, let's see what else you got. We'll find some other stuff here because there is plenty for this. There is a lot out there.
I think the rest we could probably talk about, but
okay. So, Bomani Jones will have a link for pretty much all of the things I'm saying. There's an article that we'll have in the show notes that's going to have a lot of links for all these things, a lot of YouTube clips and things like that you can find. So we're not going to take anybody else's information as our own, but Bomani Jones has quite a few videos with a lot of very interesting information, and I'd recommend checking them out because he has more of a musical insight to it where he talks about certain lyrics of certain songs, and I don't know that many Stevie Wonder songs off the top of my head, so I can't really speak to that. But what he does bring up is that he says he knows somebody that sold Stevie Wonder 3 TVs. 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 TVs. Why does Stevie Wonder, a blind man from birth, why does he need 3 TVs?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the news, you can get weather reports. You know, maybe he needs to know if it's going to be raining outside.
Yeah, but 3? I mean, 1 TV? Like, what? How much is he moving around the house? He's a blind man. He needs a square home with no walls, just the toilet in one corner, the kitchen in the other corner. Like, he needs as few obstacles as possible, right?
Let's see how big his house is. Just a quick little Google search here. Stevie Wonder house is 4,500 square feet. So probably a couple extra rooms. And if he needs to, maybe he uses sonar. And so, you know, as the TV makes noise, it echolocates the room for him. If he can't see, then, you know, maybe that's how he knows like what room he's in too.
I think he just takes off his sunglasses and he sees just fine.
Well, yeah. I guess we'll just have to agree to disagree on that one.
Okay, well that one is anecdotal, so that one's a little tough to go either way on. But so there's a video where Stevie Wonder is on the Oprah show, and he finds out that that Oprah has purchased a car for him, and he turns around directly to a guy and gives the man a hug, like just straight on. I'm looking one direction. I turn around another direction. Here's a person. I know you're there. I fully embrace you. Not like trying to find you to embrace you, but I just straight up embrace you. So now this one to me holds a lot of water because if a person's faking something and they can be really good at faking something, like the really extreme moments can sometimes catch them off guard. So like, well, this one also has another layer to it because like why does Stevie Wonder get excited about having a car? But we'll deal with the first part.
Why is he driving? Yeah.
The first part is he locates this man. From what I can tell in the video, there's no way he echolocates him. So he just turns around and gives him a hug. Like, just, how does he do that? How does he know that he's exactly there in that exact spot?
Maybe it was like one of those feelings where, you know, you just feel like somebody's looking at the back of your head, looking over your shoulder. He has that feeling so well developed that he is able to find people that are around him that way. Maybe he's just sensing the body heat. Maybe that guy was a real sweaty guy, you know? He's just hot, radiating heat.
He had a smell. He probably had some deodorant.
Yeah.
So I feel like
he was smelling the deodorant.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like this is where we're dipping into our. It's more likely that he's a superhero than it is that he can actually
It's
see.
possible. I mean,
So blind is in the middle, superheroes at the top, and able to see is at the bottom. Maybe that's.
what he's doing sounds pretty superhuman to me, don't you think?
I, yes, it definitely does. Definitely sounds superhuman. Now, but there are a couple things that he said to TMZ, which I don't take full stock into these, just because he's saying it to TMZ, who is an inflammatory industry anyway. So, they asked him one time, hey, when are you gonna tell us the truth about your, whether you're able to see or not? And he said, this year I'm going to tell you. I think it was like 2017. Obviously he's going to say something to a tabloid to keep them, maybe he's keeping them interested. Maybe he likes the game between them and the tabloid. And he also told a TMZ staff person one time that he wanted to be a cameraman for at least a day. So I think he's just kind of pulling some legs there. So I think those are just funny things I'll just kind of throw out there that are not so – I'm not convinced on the conspiracy side that those are – those carry much weight. But
I don't know. He was snapping pictures of Michael Jackson too, so maybe he has been a cameraman for the day already. I want to see what those pictures look like, though.
I really wanted to use that one, but the more I looked at the picture, you can definitely tell the guy to his right is helping him.
Maybe.
Like to me, it really looks like he's helping him. Like he's kind of getting his arms in position and stuff. So I was like, that one is kind of I wanted to use that one, but I didn't feel strong enough in the argument for it.
I still want to see that picture, though. But
I'll send you all my links before, or you can find them. You can find them in the show notes too.
Yeah, I'll just check out the show notes. That's what everybody else should be doing. Yeah, but kind of to the point of blindness. It's not like a this or that kind of thing. It's not like you're either blind or you can see pitch black or full color. There are varying degrees of blindness, and so like legally blind is something like 2050 or 2070 vision or something like that. So basically, if you can see if it looks at 20 feet to you, what it looks like a person with normal vision at 70 feet, then I think that is legally blind or something like that. So there's varying degrees of blindness that Stevie Wonder could have, medically speaking. It's not like he's just staring at a pitch black room all the time, because if he is, why does he need sunglasses? It's already dark if you have sunglasses, right? So, the basketball thing, maybe he can't define players very, very well, but he can kind of still see the movement of the ball. For his TVs, maybe he can see the big shapes moving. Also, it's a good way to get news. And then, what was your other point? Taking pictures and choking people or hugging people? That's what it was.
Yeah. He did catch Boy George in an elevator one time and kind of put him in like a just goof around chokehold. Boy George was like, if this man's blind, how did he do this?
How did he know where my neck was? Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Probably just guessed by, echolocation. He's really good at that. And so he heard where your voice was coming from, approximated about how much farther down your neck would be, and then just went for it. But then he's been doing it for so long that it's just an instantaneous process. Just that.
Right. And that is the hardest part for, like, as far as someone who is drinking the Kool-Aid. I kind of lose grasp on the Kool-Aid glass just a little bit when someone talks about how much your other senses develop and how easy you learn to gauge distances and heights, and you gauge a lot of things because of your other senses, especially if you're not fully blind, you're not complete pitch black, can't see anything blind. Like if you can make out shapes, that's a tough one. That's a tough one to overcome. But here's the one that I think kind of wraps up a few of the other things that are concerned. So Bomani Jones also mentions this. I couldn't find a link showing this. So this one has to be taken with a little bit of a grain of salt. But there was a time when Stevie Wonder was preparing himself to perform on Dancing with the Stars. Now, I've watched the show. I've watched about a season or two total of the show. I watched the advertisements. I'm always intrigued by it. But it is a very precise thing to do, to dance like that. You have to be very, very in sync. And to me, it seems like even if a person has spent the last 60 years, in a sense, echolocating all of their surroundings, when you have to make 100 decisions within seconds on where to put your hand, where to put your foot, how to twist your hips, how high to raise your arms, I don't know that if I'm the dancer, that I'm putting my trust in a guy that can barely see anything and is relying on echolocation a like a bat.
So are you saying that there are some people out there that probably know his secret?
I think so. I think Stevie Wonder, at the end of the day, has found a way to outdo Punk'd, to outdo Impractical Jokers, to outdo the guys that put together Jackass. He's outdoing them all by just wearing a pair of sunglasses and bobbing his head around just a little bit.
There
I
it
think
is.
he's got the greatest. I didn't should have put an over under on how long it took one of us to bob our head down.
Yeah.
And I'm not making fun of disabled people. It's just one of the things that he does when he plays music. So I just want to put that out there.
So you're saying he's just selling it. That's what's going on there. Huh?
I think so. I think so. I think he's really got the whole system down. I think he's done it long enough that he can just convince. He's got people convinced. He's got enough people in his corner, and he's done it long enough. He's done it well enough that, you know.
So let's say that he is completely normal vision, and he can see when he goes home. It's kind of like that Jason Momoa State Farm commercial. You know, he's just taking off the sweet jacket, and then he pops the glasses off, and then pulls the dreads off, and just chilling on the couch, watching TV.
Yeah.
What's the play? Like, you know, if he can see, why pretend to be blind?
I mean, I think about it this way: like some of the greatest like con people in the history of the world, like, have never really needed a reason much outside of their own ego. Like I mean, a person's ego and like the ability to pull off a great con like this, like to this scale, to convince people for 6 decades that you're fully blind. Like, now maybe he did have some vision impairment at a younger age, but it seems like he's got the ability. Oh, one of the things we didn't bring up was him catching a microphone stand.
Oh gosh, that's like the biggest one.
Yeah, I know. How am I gonna miss the biggest one? Like, there's a video of Paul McCartney walking between Stevie Wonder and a microphone that's on a microphone stand, and Paul McCartney's head hits the microphone, knocking the stand over, and without really even looking at the microphone stand, Stevie Wonder just reaches out and grabs it and stands it back up.
I mean, I'd say that's impressive for somebody that can see, even. So, you know, that's probably more towards superhero, honestly.
Yeah, because he was singing. Like, it wasn't like he was just standing there with a group of people. Like, he was performing.
Maybe it was part of the act. We're gonna just slide this in there, and so he knew to just stick his arm out for the microphone.
And here's the thing about great cons is that you leave room for doubt.
Yeah.
You always leave that room, because if you don't leave room for doubt, then I think you can eventually be found out. So maybe he planned that. Maybe he planned it with Paul McCartney. He's like, hey, at this point during the show, you're going to take the weirdest path across the stage, going to bump the mic with your head. I'm going to keep pretending that I'm blind, and I'm going to catch it. And it's going to keep the fire going. So
yeah, exactly.
I'm convinced the man can see, and he can see significantly enough to live as normal of a life as anybody else. But he's also pulling off the greatest con in the entertainment business.
All right. Well, I think that's probably a good note to end it on. Is he blind? Is he not blind? But neither here nor there. It sounds like we got me pro blindness and Deke pro all-seeing Stevie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid until someone yanks the glass out of my hand and convinces me otherwise.
All right, guys and gals. Thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe, comment, share, and leave us a review. Check out all the sources in our show notes, and that way you can get all the information, make decisions for yourself.
Yeah, and also don't forget to follow us on Twitter at M-Tater Show. That's MTATERSHOW. And until next time, keep your tinfoil hats polished and ready to go.
This is Meat saying, don't let the lizard people bite.